Okay, we'll start now. Other participants may join in due course. I once again welcome to all the participants for this Zoom session. See, this is our fifth Zoom class on philosophy, optional. Earlier, four classes have been done. Last week, we started the chapter on rationalism. We completed two philosophers, Descartes and Spinoza. Uh, Today we are going to cover third philosopher in the rationalist philosophical theory, that is Leibniz. But before covering Leibniz, as decided last week we gave two questions but on Descartes and Spinoza, and the we told that we will be discussing the model answer for these two questions next week. So today we will be first discussing the model answers on the last week's question, and then we will see what are the main philosophical points or theories advocated by Leibniz, and then we will also have the question based on Leibniz philosophy for this week, which we will be giving the model answer next week. One more thing I just want to tell all the students before I start. Uh, I have realized that there is a problem in understanding the notes or the lectures or even the books which students are reading because of various philosophical terms. And unless you use those terms uh, in your answer writing or otherwise also, you will not get good marks. So, uh, understanding certain common philosophical terms which are very useful is first step. Now, for that, what I have decided is uh, I'm going to identify about 100, philosophical terms of all the two papers, both first and second. Uh, and I'm going to explain in smaller videos, maybe of 10 to 15 minutes each. So maybe there will be in one uh, video class, if I can explain five to six terms, maybe we will complete this in about 10 to 15 videos. So that also I'm going to come up very soon. That will be, I feel, will be very useful for the students of philosophy, particularly those students who are new to the subject, because unless you understand the terms properly, you will not be able to comprehend what is being told, what is being written, what is uh, being discussed, and you will not be able to use those terms in your answer writing also, because those are very, very important for getting or scoring good marks. So, with this introduction, now I would like to discuss the model answers for last week's question. So, I will just share the document, I will connect it. Yeah, so see, last week uh, we started with we have given the question. I will just show you that first question first, and then we can discuss what is the model answer. So if you see, these were the two questions given last week. Explain Descartes' theory of innate ideas and how Locke criticizes it. Explain Spinoza's statement, what is can't be other than what it is. I have written 400 words each. So basically, uh, any, I mean, If a question comes for 10 marks or 15 marks or 20 marks, it can be answered if the students write it properly. So this was the question given last week. What can be the model answer? Let us understand that now. Okay, so first we will see the uh, Descartes' theory of innate ideas and Locke's criticism. Now, this is the first question which was given last week. See, Descartes, Spinoza, and Leibniz, they represent rationalism school. Locke, Berkeley, and Hume, they represent empiricist. I mean, they basically they are from the school of empiricism. So both are diametrically opposite. So what theory Descartes has given, Locke has given severe criticism. I mean, basically they are both are 180-degree apart. So first we will understand what is the Descartes' theory of innate ideas, and then we will see how Locke has criticized it, and then we will critically evaluate whose criticism or whose idea or whose ideology is much better or better to be accepted. So, as I told, there is a conflict, broader conflict between rationalism and empiricism. This is introduction. If you see, the introduction is just explaining how rationalism and empiricism are two different approaches for the reality as well as for epistemology, whether it is for theory of knowledge or whether it is of theory of reality. For both, these are two different approaches. And particularly, they are opposite to each other as far as theory of knowledge is concerned. Because one says that knowledge originates from experience, that is empiricism. Other says that knowledge is already existing in the mind. That is, knowledge ideas are innate. So these are basically two diametrically opposite theories which they have given, are schools of knowledge, or schools of theory of knowledge, or schools of epistemology in philosophy. Now, what is actually Descartes? So, in first paragraph, what we have done, we have given a simple introduction explaining what is rationalism, what is empiricism, who represents rationalism, who represents empiricism, and how these two schools are totally different. Now, then we come to what is Descartes' theory of innate ideas. As we all know that Descartes was a rationalist and he was a mathematician also. He has given the concept of uh, cogito ergo sum, I think, therefore I am. So basically, if you see uh, the idea of God, for example, Descartes says that idea of self or idea of God is already present in the mind from birth. So what he says is, what theory of innate ideas says, that ideas or knowledge is already present in mind since birth. So knowledge or is innate, ideas are innate. So this is what basically theory. Now, what are the key points of Descartes' theory? If you see, number one, universality. For example, some mathematical principles or truths or logical things, they are not derived from experience. What Descartes says, they are not derived from experience, therefore they are innate. He has given a wax argument. For example, there is a piece of wax. Now it changes shape as the artist wants to change its shape, but it still remains the wax. So that's what argument was given by Descartes, that in his book Meditations on First Philosophy, that knowledge is just like that. Knowledge may change shape, but it's basically innate only. Idea of God. What Descartes says is third quality, idea of God. He says that concept of perfect infinite being could not have originated from finite human experience. Therefore, the idea of God is innate. So basically, he says that knowledge is not obtained from experience, it is innate. If at all knowledge is modulated because of experience, it's just like wax, and actual knowledge remains like wax, but it may take different shape due to experience. That's what his idea is. Now, what's Locke's criticism? If you see, he was again 17th century philosopher. He was an empiricist, we know. He has given the theory of tabula rasa. He says that mind at birth is a blank state. Mind is totally empty, and all knowledge is acquired through experience only. So, on the one hand, Descartes says that knowledge is innate. He says that all knowledge comes from experience only. Now, what are his key objections of Descartes' theory? He says that there is a lack of universal agreement. What Descartes has given, that there is a universal thing, but he says, Locke says that no, there is no universal agreement in the ideas. Therefore, it's not innate. It comes from experience. For example, God, morality, or even mathematical principles are not inborn, because there are certain individuals, uh, they lack these concepts, and particularly in different cultures, even belief regarding God and morality may be different. So that's what his idea was. So this the thing is not universal, therefore the idea is not innate. Then knowledge comes from experience. Locke has given a theory that ideas first arise from sensation, and then through internal process of reflection it is shaped basically. So uh, main basic material comes from experience only. Then innate ideas are unnecessary. This is again Locke says, he argued that rationalists overcomplicate knowledge instead of assuming that ideas are pre-programmed. Locke suggested that humans develop concepts gradually through interaction with their environment. So this is what both, I mean, on the one hand, view of Locke we have seen, on the other hand, view of uh, Descartes, and this we have to write in a very systematic manner, logical manner. Then what is the critical evaluation? I mean, basically, let us evaluate this also we need to write, because then only our answer will be complete. So critical evaluation of both Descartes and Locke's theory. If we uh, see the challenge, definitely Locke's criticism is quite strong as far as Descartes' ideas are concerned. But definitely there is a strength and weaknesses in arguments of both. So this is what we have analyzed in critical evaluation. If you see strengths of Descartes' rationalism, weaknesses of Descartes' view, and then strengths of Locke's empiricism, and then weaknesses of Locke's view. So basically, in both, there is some strong points are there, some weak points are there. So I'm not explaining that. Please read it carefully, and then you will understand. So basically, both, if you want to conclude, uh, a middle ground approach is perhaps better. And that is what even modern cognitive science also supports. So basically, if you see, modern cognitive science supports a compromise. Uh, while the mind may not contain fully formed ideas at birth, it possesses innate structures that shape how we process and interpret experience. So, a synthesis of both views may offer a more comprehensive understanding of human cognition. So, basically, this is, if you see, a balanced answer as far as this thing is concerned. I am again repeating, the number of words here are little more just to explain the whole thing fully, but in actual writing, answer writing in exam, definitely all points any student may not be able to remember, so all sentences may not be able to remember. So definitely a number of words automatically will reduce, but main headings should be like this only. A first little introduction, then explain the Descartes theory of innate ideas, and then what is Locke's criticism of that, then critical evaluation of both Descartes as well as Locke, and then finally what is the conclusion. So this, if you can write in about 300 to 400 words, your answer, even if for 20 marks comes, it will be complete. Now we'll come to second question. Spinoza's metaphysical determination. See, what is cannot be other than what it is. So this was a sentence. In the question it was written: discuss or explain or critically examine. Anything can be written. What is cannot be other than what it is. This is a statement given by Spinoza. Now this is called, in other words, Spinoza's metaphysical determinism. So if question comes to explain Spinoza's metaphysical determinism, then also same answer has to be written. So here basically I have just not only explained this line, our statement from Spinoza, but also, in other words, this is called metaphysical determinism of Spinoza. So this also all of us should understand, because if question comes in different words or in different manner, we should not confuse that something else is being asked. It's same thing, but we have to write in a different. I mean, just content will be same, but presentation may be a little different thing. So Spinoza has given the statement, what is cannot be other than what is, reflects his belief in deterministic and necessary reality. I mean, basically, Spinoza says everything that exists follows necessarily from the nature of substance, that is, from God. So, what he says, God is nature, nature is God, and everything which exists follows necessarily from God. Since substance is infinite and self caused, everything in existence must be exactly as it is. Nothing can be otherwise. So basically, uh, first paragraph is little introduction on this statement itself. What is metaphysical determinism of Spinoza, or what is meant by, broadly, what is meant by the statement, what is cannot be other than what it is. So here we can explain what is broadly meant by that, and then we can break down this statement, because this statement is, I mean, in one paragraph you may not be able to explain fully. So just parts also we can break down, and then we can further, I mean, see its critical evaluation and other things. So if we break down, see, first thing comes is necessity of existence. So Spinoza holds that all things exist by necessity. So this is what Spinoza's view, which is derived from this statement, that all things exist by necessity. Everything that follows from it must be determined. So there is nothing haphazard, there is nothing casual happening. Everything happens which is already determined, and it happens by necessity. So this is first point which comes from Spinoza's this statement. Now, second point is rejection of contingency. As I have already told, there is nothing haphazard, there is nothing contingent, there is nothing which comes suddenly. Everything is determined. Spinoza denies contingency. For him, randomness is an illusion. Everything that happens does so necessarily according to unbreakable causal laws. It's something exists, it must exist exactly as it does, without the possibility of alternative outcomes. So rejection of contingency is another interpretation, or another part, or another meaning of this statement. Then third, what will be its implications for human beings and nature? Let us see that. What will be its implication? Now, Spinoza's deterministic framework is not only for certain things or nature only, it also extends to human beings. So if our desires, decisions, and behaviors follow inevitably from prior causes, the notion that things could have been different is mistaken. Every event, including human actions, is necessarily determined. So, what I want to say is that implication of this statement is also applicable to human beings. This is what meaning of this third. And this means that every event, including human actions, is necessarily determined. This is what Spinoza's view. Now, Spinoza has connected, I mean, we should also understand what is Spinoza's broader philosophy, and how this statement of determinism or metaphysical determinism is connected to his broader philosophy. See, Spinoza, all of know, I mean, if you understand our previous lecture also, if you might have gone through, Descartes has given a philosophy of dualism. Spinoza has given a philosophy of monoism. For Spinoza, there is only one God, and nature. God is nature, nature is God, and everything derives from that only. So, in fact, body and matter, as we have already read, is the two attributes of the same God, and they are parallel. He has given a theory of parallelism, parallel interaction between these two. So basically, his theory of monoism. Monism, a single substance governs all reality. So, since single substance governs all reality, and that is infinite, all other thing is only expression of that. So, therefore, whatever exists is exists in a determined way. Nothing in the universe can be different from what it is. So basically, this sentence is directly connected with his theory of monism. Now, determinism. This is again I mean, philosophy. I mean, we know the question from the Spinoza also. Last week also we discussed. See, he has given the philosophy of determinism. Word view resembles a geometric system. See, Spinoza was also a geometric uh, a mathematician. So he has, I mean, from that also he has given this theory, and otherwise also his theory is basically theory of determinism. So word view resembles a geometric system where conclusions necessarily follow from axioms. So it's not that conclusions are randomly coming out and there is no uh, direct correlation between axiom and conclusion. So basically everything comes with absolute necessity and absolute fixation. It's not that contingency or haphazardness or all these things are not possible. Then third point is Spinoza's view in simple terms. What this whole thing means in very simple terms, if we say. Spinoza eliminates the concept of randomness or chance. The universe is a necessary system where everything happens precisely as it must. There are no genuine alternatives. What exists is the only way that things could happen. So basically, this is, if you see, this is in very simple terms the meaning of the sentence of the Spinoza, this sentence. What is cannot be other than what is cannot be other than what it is means in simple terms this thing. Spinoza eliminates the concept of randomness or chance. The universe is a necessary system where everything happens precisely as it must. There are no genuine alternatives. What exists is the only way things could have been. Now, let us critically evaluate. I mean, this also we need to write critical evaluation of this thing. What are the strengths? What are the weaknesses? What are the strengths? What are the criticisms which this statement or this Spinoza's determinism has got from various other philosophers? So, uh, if you, I'm not going through in details. If you can go through these 3 points, these are the strengths of this Spinoza's determinism, and then criticism. Uh, Definitely theory has been severely criticized, and if we see, not only the philosophers, subsequent philosophers have criticized, but also he has got challenges from modern physics. Then even ethical and existential implications or human experience of choice. So basically, from all, uh, because unless there is a free will, definitely morality also will be affected. So, from ethical point of view, also his view has been severely criticized. Modern physics, quantum physics, says that that at subatomic level, uh, it's a more a probability rather than determination. So then, so this also we should understand that quantum mechanics believes more in a probability rather than determination. So basically, if you see, all these criticisms make a very strong point that Spinoza's determinism is not very valid theory. Now, what can be the conclusion? Spinoza's assertion that what is cannot be other than what it is presents a logically rigorous deterministic view of reality. Definitely, from his point or strength is that it's logically very rigorous, but uh, definitely it faces significant criticism from modern physics, ethics, and the lived experiences of choice. While this model provides a compelling alternative to religious or supernatural explanations, it struggles to fully account for moral responsibility, human freedom, and the psychological reality of decision making. So, if we conclude with this kind of conclusion, our answer can be quite marks fetching in real exam. So basically, with this, we'll conclude these two model answers, and now we'll come to Leibniz. Now, but before coming to Leibniz, again, I just want to show you what are the topics we want to study, because as I have already told earlier, we have to analyze uh, the syllabus properly. We have to analyze the previous year questions, and then we arrive at what are the important topics pertaining to that philosopher we should concentrate more, because if we want to study in a very focused manner, in concentrated manner, definitely we cannot uh, uh, expand our energies on all, everywhere, all topics, but we have to definitely focus on more important things and more important. So after analysis, what are the important topics for Leibniz, if we see? So for Leibniz, I have identified after analysis these four topics. One is monadology, then second is Leibniz principle of identity of indiscernible, and then third is Leibniz theory of pre-established harmony. Fourth is Leibniz theory of perception. So these four we will be studying in detail, but before that, we will try to study what are the basics of Leibniz philosophy, because first we will understand basics and then we will go in little deeper in these four topics. This is what my uh, conclusion as far as the Leibniz is concerned, and this is a targeted study if we want to, uh, in a very, I mean, less time, in a concentrated manner, we want to achieve better results. This we have to do. So now let us come to what is the main important points in the Leibniz philosophy. See, Leibniz, as you know, he was a rationalist. He, in a series, if you see, rationalism started from Descartes, then Spinoza, and then finally is Leibniz. So Leibniz philosophy is basically ultimate or culmination of the rationalism. He has uh, basically modified, or if you can say, matured the whole philosophy of the Descartes, Spinoza, and at his level, it has been totally mature philosophy of as far as rationalism is concerned. What are is so basically his philosophy represents culmination of rationalism. Now, what are its main theories or main ideas which he propagated? Let us understand that in very brief, because as I have already told, those four topics will be going through in detail. But before that, let us understand what are his main ideas or what is main theory. See, first principle is principle of sufficient reason. Leibniz introduced principle of sufficient reason. Everything has a reason for being as it is and not otherwise. This is what Leibniz has asserted. Everything has a reason for being as it is and not otherwise. This principle is foundation of his metaphysical system and applies to the everything in existence. So this is his first principle which he has enunciated and focused. Second is pluralism versus monism. So he has given a pluralistic theory. See, Spinoza has given monoism. Before that, Descartes has given dualism. Now, what Leibniz has done, he has made it a plural theory, pluralism. So now his pluralistic metaphysics. What has happened now? Let us see monism of Spinoza, and then uh, sorry. Yeah, he has given the pluralism theory. So, I mean, as you know, Spinoza has given monism. There is only one substance, that is God. Everything is derived from that. What Leibniz has told is reality consists of many individual substances, and he has given the name monads. What Leibniz says, monads. He has given a name to those many substances, individual substances, monads. He proposed a hierarchical theory of reality, that monads are also from different, we will see in subsequent slides, we will see monads are also of different, if you say in hierarchy, it comes from right from spiritual, then material, and then all those things will come. So it is basically a hierarchical structure of reality. Now, what Leibniz has done regarding innate ideas, that also is quite interesting. See, what Descartes has told, some ideas are innate. What Locke is an empiricist. We have already seen how he has criticized Descartes in previous question. Locke has given the idea no ideas are innate. All knowledge comes from experience. Now, incidentally, if you see time wise, after Locke, Leibniz was there. So basically, Leibniz theory, I mean, he has seen the Locke's philosophy, and Leibniz has given that all ideas are innate but need experience to be activated. So this is what Leibniz theory is. So Descartes, some ideas are innate. Locke, no ideas are innate. And Leibniz, all ideas are innate but need experience to be activated. So basically, if he, if once we go, I mean, next chapter we are going on empiricism, so we will study Locke, what he has told. So Locke's famous statement, this statement also comes several times in the examination for discussion or critical examination or expansion. Locke has given the statement: there is nothing in the intellect which was not first in the senses. Up to this point, this is Locke's statement. What Leibniz has done is added this in the statement, except the intellect itself. So he basically, Leibniz basically modified the Locke's statement that Leibniz basically modified the Locke's statement that there's nothing in the intellect which was not first in the senses. This was Locke's statement. He added except the intellect itself. Leibniz argued that knowledge is like a sculptor revealing a statue within the marble. Experience does not create knowledge but reveals what is already there. So, this is what Leibniz theory of knowledge or innate ideas or rationalism, his comments on that. Now, monadology. This is his very important theory. We several times questions have been asked. He has given, as I already explained, a very reality consists of many individual substances called monads. It is his metaphysical theory because they are the meta. I will again just want to tell metaphysical means reality, explaining regarding the nature of the reality. Epistemology means theory of knowledge, how knowledge is obtained, what is the nature of knowledge. So, monadology basically is his metaphysical theory. This says that there are reality is consist of many individual substances, and those substances are known as monads. Now, what are monads? Monads are spiritual, indivisible, and independent units. They are basically spiritual, indivisible, and independent units. Now, again, same thing: individual, indivisible, immaterial, and self-active entities. Unlike atoms. Now, if we know every element is consist of some atoms, but atoms are material and divisible because atoms, electron, proton, neutron, and these kind of particles are there, and they are material elements. No consciousness is there. Monads are individual, immaterial, and self-active entities. So they are source of pure energy. But again, what Leibniz has given, they are windowless. They don't contact with each other. So they are basically windowless, and they function independently without affecting each other. So each monad is a microcosm of the universe. So this is again an interesting thing he has told. So basically, in Leibniz philosophy, monads are very, very important metaphysically. This we should know because this whatever comes, you have to definitely mention about monads and monadology in a very brief. So his philosophy is very, very uh, connected. I mean, connected to this monadology. Now, as earlier I was telling, there is hierarchy of monads. So monads are definitely indivisible, immaterial, and self-active entities. They are windowless. All these things are there. But then there is different hierarchy of monads. First is bare monads, then soul monads, spirit monads, and then finally God monad, which is highest monad with absolute perception, acting as the organizing force of all monads. So basically, there are four kinds of monads, and he also says that there is internal law of change. Lower quality or lower variety monads wants to progress towards better variety. So bare monads wants to progress towards soul monads wants to progress towards spirit monad. So each monad follows its internal law of change. Now, from monadology or the quality of monads, another theory is derived, which Leibniz has given very, very importance in his philosophy. That is pre-established harmony. As we know that monads are windowless. So how they interact with each other? Uh, because interaction or at least communication between one monad to other monad, how it is possible? So what Leibniz says, no. Uh, they don't interact with each other, but there is a pre-established harmony, and this pre-established harmony is uh, has been done by God Himself. So what he statement this statement again is very important. I just want to tell all of you that this statement again has come several times in the examination, just to expand or discuss or critically examine what Leibniz told. Bodies act as if they had no souls, souls act as if there were no bodies, but both act as if to influence each other. So this is statement, and this is, if this statement comes, then also we'll have to discuss with his theory of pre-established harmony. Now, he has given the analogy of clock. He says that there are two synchronized clocks made by some watchmaker or somebody, and they both show same time. They are running on separate mechanisms, but they are showing same time. So it means what? It has been made, I mean, they are synchronized, they are, some harmony has been established by some third party, and that is God. So what he says, every monad runs on separate mechanism preset by God. So this pre-established harmony has been set by God Himself. This avoids direct casual interaction while preserving perfect correspondence. Now, what are the implications of this pre-established harmony? If we remember, Descartes has given for mind-body relationship a theory of interactionism, that is through pineal gland it interacts. What the Spinoza has told, a parallelism, body matter, how they interact. Now, Leibniz has given a theory of pre-established harmony. So, his theory basically tries to overrule the deficiencies of both Descartes and Spinoza. Uh, Universal order, monads act independently, yet there is a unity in the universe. So it also establishes, I mean, it can explain how universal order is established. What are its criticisms? Actually, this pre-established harmony we are going to study or discuss in little more detail here. Just in briefly, I just want to explain what are its criticism. The theory is unverifiable. It's not empirically verifiable. How monads are acting, how they are windowless and isolated. So this is no mechanism to verify. If then again another contradiction is, if monads act independently, how does God influence them? Because if you know, God is already a monad. So if he says that one monad is not affecting other, but God is monad and still he is affecting all other monads or establishing pre-established harmony. So this is again a very, very uh, contradictory thing which is being raised. Then Bertrand Russell, he points out that if God is a monad and monads cannot interact, how can God create and establish harmony? This is what I have told. This is again a very, very important criticism. So now next is, what are the Leibniz argument for God's existence? This is again he has given four major arguments: ontological, then principle of sufficient reason, then argument from eternal truths, and then pre-established harmony is also an argument, because unless God is there, who will establish pre-established harmony among the monads? So these are the four arguments which he has given. I'm not going in detail, but this also ontological, sufficient reason, argument for eternal truths, argument from pre-established harmony, and there is a criticism also of these arguments. So you can go through, I'm not going in detail. So now what is the Leibniz contribution of the rationalism and how it compares with other rationalist philosophers? Let us understand this comparative chart. See, Leibniz is, his philosophy represents climax of rationalist philosophy. Now, climax or culmination of rationalist philosophy. Regarding substance, what Descartes says dualism, what Spinoza says monism, what Leibniz says it's a pluralism. What is nature of reality? Mind and body are distinct for Descartes. Everything is one substance for Spinoza. Everything consists of individual self-contained monads. That is many number is many. What are innate ideas? Descartes says some ideas are innate. Spinoza says some ideas are innate. Leibniz says all ideas are innate. Knowledge. Knowledge is based on reason but requires some experience about absolute. Then Spinoza says based on intuition and reason. Leibniz says entirely based on reason, no real external knowledge. What is God? God is absolute substance, mind body as relative substance. What Spinoza says only one substance, that is God. Then Leibniz says supreme monad is God, which is source of all order. Leibniz opposed Locke's empiricism and insisted that knowledge unfolds internally rather than coming from experience, which you have already seen. Now, what are the criticism and evaluations of the Leibniz philosophy? What are its strengths? Uh, See, Leibniz idea of monads basically anticipated modern physics. This is very important because uh, his idea that matter is just energy or force is very similar to Einstein's mass energy equivalence, that is E is equal to mc square. Then he also uh, uh, basically he was a precursor of modern psychology. His distinction between conscious and unconscious perception is again influenced Freud's psychoanalytic theory. So this is again an important contribution of Leibniz, strength of his philosophy. He has attempted to reconcile rationalism with religious belief. Then what are weaknesses? Monadology is unverifiable. God as a monad contradicts the windowless nature of monads. Pre-established harmony lacks explanatory power. Then Leibniz system leads to solipsism. If all knowledge is within monads, how can we verify the reality? So this is again a important criticism. And then conclusion, definitely it has a lot of negative points, but it's still quite influential philosophy. Leibniz has been one of the most important rationalist philosophers. His philosophy basically embodies the culmination of uh, what was started from Descartes, then developed in Spinoza and culminated in Leibniz. So this is basically, in brief, the whole philosophy of Leibniz. Now, as I have already told, we will be discussing separately now four questions or four topics related to Leibniz in little more detail. Already, partly we have covered that, but then we want to discuss in little more detail because those are the important questions or important topics if we take into consideration the civil services exam or UPSC exam. Now, first is monadology. Monadology, broadly, I have explained in brief. Now, if same thing, we will be going a little more detail. Uh, See, monadology is basically a metaphysical philosophy of Leibniz. Uh, in this, he has given a basically a metaphysical framework based on fundamental indivisible entities known as monads. Uh, he basically his theory consists of an infinite number of monads, each programmed to act in a predetermined way, that is pre-established harmony. Monads function in a perfect harmony, uh, fixed by or orchestrated by a divine pre-established order, resolving the mind body problem, but rendering any real interaction between substances illusory. So basically, if we see, this is in brief is monadology. So in introduction itself, it has been explained. Now, monads are basically the fundamental units of reality in Leibniz philosophy. Uh, but unlike material atoms, monads are spiritual, monads are indivisible, uh, units of force. Uh, they are self-contained, simple, and non-physical. So these are the quality of the monads. Then Leibniz departure from earlier philosophical systems because he defines substance by independent activity rather than mere existence. Then here Substances are multiplicity of substances, in contrast to Spinoza, who has given that only substance is single, that is God. So, and third is mind-body relationship. He has rejected Cartesian dualism. He has rejected Spinoza's parallelism, and then he has given the theory of pre-established harmony. So, basically, if you see, these are the uh, basic uh, theories connected to monadology in Spinoza. Sorry, in Leibniz. Now, what are the characteristics of monads? Already in brief it has been explained, but again, little more detail. They are indivisible and simple. They are self-contained. Then there is a perception and appreciation in that. How every monad perceives the universe, however dimly, and possesses an inner drive, appetition that determines its changes. Then there is a hierarchical nature of monads. This we have already gone through: bare monads, soul monads, spirit monads, and supreme monad, that is God. So basically, all transformation is self-contained and predetermined. So monads theory is also, here we need to briefly explain. If question comes that discuss monadology in Leibniz philosophy, so we have to very briefly we have to mention pre-established harmony also in that way. Now, what is pre-established harmony? Uh, a divine arrangement ensuring fair synchronization. This is basically a pre-established harmony. So God has arranged all monads in such a way that they function in a very synchronized manner, just like some clock, two clocks, or many clocks made by some watchmaker or some factory. They work in a very synchronized manner. So, similarly, all monads also work in synchronized. This statement already we have gone through in previous slides. This is important statement representing pre-established harmony. Uh, he has also given the example like musicians playing in the perfect synchrony, different musicians in a very band or something like that. That also is given by the Leibniz. Uh, Now, several criticism of pre-established harmony has this also we have seen in a very brief manner earlier. So Russell's objection that if monads are self-contained, it is contradictory that how them to reflect the universe. Then independence issue, because here the autonomy is questioned. There is a deterministic theory. Then theological paradox: if monads emanate from God, their supposed self-sufficiency is undermined. Then lack of empirical verification. This is very strong objection against the theory of monadology as well as theory of pre-established harmony. Now, Leibniz laws of monads. What are Leibniz laws of monads? He has given various laws of monads. Also, law of continuity. Monads form a continuous hierarchy from bare monads to supreme monad. Then law of similarity. All monads share fundamental characteristics: indivisibility, spiritual nature, perception, and appreciation. Law of dissimilarity. Independent identity of indiscernible. So no two monads are identical. Now, again, this is very important. This see, no two monads are identical. Each perceives the universe uniquely. So even though the monads are innumerable in number, but no two monads are identical. Then principle of conservation of force. Leibniz challenges Descartes' conservation of motion, asserting that force, not motion, is the fundamental thing, aligning with modern physics. So this is again principle of conservation of force is important theory or important uh, characteristic or laws of monads. Now, what are its relevance to modern thought? Uh, Philosophical perspective, if we see, then scientific, and then also Indian philosophical connections we can just see. So, Bertrand Russell, he criticizes monadology. Already previously also we have seen. Alfred North Whitehead integrates aspects of monadology into process philosophy. See, Whitehead was a proponent of process philosophy. So he has taken clue from monadology and integrated this thing in process philosophy. Then phenomenology. Husserl also finds parallels between monads and subjective consciousness. So basically, he also has taken cue from Leibniz monadology. Scientific parallels, quantum mechanics, fundamental particles behave more like probability waves than solid entities, resembling monads in their non-material nature. Relativity and field theory. This suggests interdependent reality contrasting. So again, relativity and field theory is a little contrast to what Leibniz windowless monads are. Then AI and cognitive science. Hierarchical perception of monads aligns with theories of emergent intelligence in AI. Indian philosophical connections, what are they? Advaita Vedanta, the concept of Brahm reflecting in individual jivas is akin to monads reflecting microcosm. Sankhya philosophy, a distinction between Purusha and Prakriti, parallels Leibniz independent yet internally determined monads. Jainism, theory of Anekantvad, aligns with monads, perceiving reality from distinct perspectives. Nyaya Vaishesik, again, this is school of Indian philosophy consists of distinct independent substances, which is called dravya, much like Leibniz monads. So there is a parallel between monadology and various Indian philosophical systems also. What is critical evaluation of this monadology? uh, there is a logical inconsistency if monads are windowless, because this some of the criticism we have already seen earlier. So one is logical inconsistency, other is problem of free will, then empirical unverifiability, then Russell's theological paradox. If monads are truly independent, God's role in their creation and harmonization becomes problematic. Then contradiction with modern physics also. And then the conclusion, the definitely despite these challenges, monadology remains an influential philosophical system, inspiring discussions on consciousness, determinism, and metaphysical structure in both philosophy and science. Now, we will come to second important topic of Leibniz, that is principle of identity of indiscernibles. Uh, it is again a fundamental concept in analytical ontology, first formulated by Leibniz and then subsequently developed by various other subsequent philosophers. Uh, this principle is basically no two distinct entities can be exactly alike in all respects. We have already in monadology, we have seen Leibniz has given no two monads are same or similar. So in other words, if two objects share all their properties, they are not truly distinct, but rather the same entity. But in reality, the two distinct entities can be exactly alike in all respects. Note, so this is what Leibniz law is. If every property possessed by entity X is also possessed by entity Y and vice versa, then X and Y are identical. That is, X and Y are same entity. So this is what Leibniz law basically. And this is called the principle of uh, identity of indiscernibles. So, what is philosophical significance? Uh, basically, is significant. It is significant because it tells us what individual seemingly identical objects. Because how objects are identical, how are different. It has been widely debated, particularly in the context of quantum mechanics, where some interpretation suggests that principle does not hold the quantum level. Further, there is ongoing debate over whether the principle is a logical necessity or empirical generalization. So basically, uh, there is a utility of this principle in quantum mechanics or logic also, but then again, it belongs to Leibniz metaphysical framework. So theory of monads underpins the principle of identity of indiscernibles because this is linked with his metaphysical framework. Uh, his key metaphysical principles, as we have already seen in the law of monads also, there is a law of continuity, law of similarity, principle of conservation of force, and law of dissimilarity. So although monads share common traits, no two monads can be exactly same. They differ in degrees of consciousness, forming a hierarchical order. So this is equal to uh, principle of identity of indiscernibles. Leibniz offers two primary arguments for this principle. He has given two primary arguments. One is empirical argument and other is a priori argument. Empirical argument, God would have no reason to create two identical things as they would serve no distinct purpose. A priori arguments, no two things can occupy the exact same place at the same time, reinforcing again his multiplicity or pluralism, the idea that reality consists of distinct entities. Now, what are the criticism of this identity of indiscernibles, principle of the identity of indiscernibles? Uh, See, again, it has been criticized by modern science, by even modern philosophers. One main first thing is counter examples from symmetrical objects. Max Black, he is again a philosopher of 20th century, proposed a thought experiment featuring a universe containing only two perfect identical spheres arranged symmetrically. Since neither sphere has any distinguishing property, they contradict Leibniz's principle of identity of indiscernibles. Quantum mechanics and distinguishable particles. Again, in quantum mechanics also, certain elementary particles such as electrons within the same quantum state appear to be completely identical, yet still distinct. So again, here also Leibniz theory that no identical particles can exist independently is not correct. Role of spatio-temporal location. Some philosophers argue that objects can be distinct even if they share all intrinsic properties, simply because they occupy different locations in space and time. So this is again uh, criticism of Leibniz theory. Then empirical versus logical necessity. Leibniz commitment to principle varies across his writings. At times, he presents it as a necessary truth, then contingent truth. So basically, Leibniz also in different writings, he has wavering from necessary to contingency true. So his, because he might have seen various criticism of his time and then tried to modify his view, but his view is not very consistent in his all the writings. If the principle is only an empirical truth, then logical possibility of two distinct but indiscernible things remain open. So see, if logically not, I mean, it cannot exist. So first it appears that he wants to make it necessary truth, but then he in some of the writings it is there. It's only empirical truth and not a logical possibility or not a logical necessity, which means ki in future it may be possible also. So then again, this principle is objected on that ground. Then objections from model realism. Uh, some possible words, there could be qualitatively identical but numerically distinct objects. So this also is one of the criticism by David Lewis. He is at again 20th century philosopher. Now, what is critical evaluation of this theory? Leibniz's principle of identity of indisciples remains a cornerstone of metaphysical reasoning, but definitely there are several challenges. Uh, it provides, I mean, Leibniz, even though Leibniz provides multiple arguments in support of the principles, uh, there is uh, number of criticisms, particularly from modern science and empiricists that this is not possible. So finally, what is the conclusion? Principle of identity of indiscernibles is a profoundly influential idea that has shaped metaphysical debates for centuries. But quantum mechanics, modern logic raise substantial challenges. Uh, Modern science and philosophy continue to question whether principle is universally applicable. So basically, even though it is important, but it has been challenged by modern science, quantum mechanics, and even modern philosophers also. Now we come to third important topic of Leibniz, that is pre-established harmony. Now pre-established harmony, again we have uh, discussed and we have, I mean, already understood, because this is again repeatedly coming two, three times. See, pre-established harmony, in this we will go through a little more detail. Uh, Monads act independently, yet appear to interact due to divine programming. What is divine programming? This is pre-established harmony. So their actions are synchronized by God to create an illusion of causality, solving mind-body problems. So by this pre-established harmony idea, Leibniz assumes that mind-body problem is solved. So what is core idea? What is the main idea is that all events occur in perfect harmony without direct causation. Uh, just like analogy of two synchronized clocks Leibniz has given. So it happens like that. Then there are several other examples he has given. For example, musicians in an orchestra play independently yet produce a unified melody. Then physical act of clapping or occur simultaneously, but one does not cause the other. So, uh, several examples he has given regarding how pre-established harmony is maintained by God in different monads. Nature of monads, two essential qualities. Already earlier we have discussed perception and appetition. What are monads? There is hierarchy is there, bare to God. Then each monad mirrors the universe, however, little differently, because no two monads are same. That also his theory has given. Then he tries to solve this mind body problem, because if we see all rationalists, Descartes has given interactionism, then Arnold Julnix and Nicholas Malebranche has given occasionalism, Spinoza has given parallelism. Now what Leibniz has finally given, pre-established harmony. So this was an attempt also to solve the mind body problem. uh, what are various criticism of pre-established harmony? So if we see, it eliminates causality. It then again it makes everything determined. Determinism versus free will means it's again everything is determined, everything is free fixed. Unverifiability, it's not verifiable. It leads to solipsism. Then it also contradicts God's role, because God is itself a monad. How one monad affects other? On the one hand, Leibniz says that no monad is affecting each other. Still, God being a monad is able to establish harmony. Is a contradiction. Then scientific incompatibility, modern physics uh, also is not, supporting this argument. Then problem of evil. Problem of evil, because Leibniz claimed that this is best possible word, but this is a determined word. So therefore, if everything is determined, then why should there be evil? So this again is a problem. Problem of evil, if you remember in first class, introductory class, I have discussed problem of evil. Is very interesting thing. If some of the students want to know a little more detail in problem of evil, they can see my first lecture, because there in very, very detail we have discussed the problem of evil. This is one of the important chapters in philosophy of religion in paper 2. So that also I request, because there this view has already been discussed in detail. So here this PEH, which represents determinism, is going against the uh, free will, and therefore it is not able to explain problem of evil. So in conclusion, pre-established harmony, definitely it's an imaginative solution, but definitely it's not very, very sound, because it lacks empirical verification. It leads to determinism, and it contradicts regarding God's its own nature role, because as I have already told, God itself being a monad, on the one hand Leibniz says that one monad is not affecting other, on the other hand he says that God being a monad also he is able to is pre-establish some harmony in all the other monads. Now, the fourth topic we've reached fourth topic as far as the Leibniz is concerned. This is theory of perception. Because some in some years this question has also been asked: what is Leibniz theory of perception? Leibniz maintained that all ideas are innate. This we know, because most rationalists have, for rationalists, ideas are innate. For Leibniz, all ideas are innate, because he was the culmination point of the rationalism. So he basically expanded the argument of Descartes and Spinoza, and he says that all ideas in mind are innate. For Leibniz, knowledge is acquired externally, but is instead a gradual unfolding of what is already present within the mind. So basically, this is his theory of rationalism. His philosophy attempts to reconcile the opposing views of Descartes and Locke, uh, and it's within this context that his theory of perception can be understood. So basically, we if we understand the basics of the rationalism and empiricism, and how Leibniz wants to reconcile rationalism and Locke's empiricism, then he has given this theory of perception. Whereas Descartes limited innateness to fundamental ideas, Leibniz extended this to all ideas, putting him in direct opposition to Locke. Uh, According to Leibniz, all monads possess an innate power of perception. Uh, he modified the Locke's assertion. If we remember, we have already earlier also discussed. Locke's assertion is that there is nothing in the intellect which was not previously in the senses. This much Locke has told. Now, what Leibniz added is except the intellect itself. This was added by Leibniz. This addition highlights his belief that even before one experiences color, sound, or heat, the capacity to perceive these sensations must already exist innately. So this is basically his theory of perception. The capacity to perceive sensations already exist innately in the mind. So Locke has told that there is nothing in the mind, everything comes from experience. Leibniz refuted this claim and says that for a blind man also, though color exists, he lacks the capacity to perceive it. Similarly, in bare monads, perceptions is obscure and confused, whereas in soul monads, perception becomes conscious, spirit monads highest level. So basically, if we remember, he has given four kinds of monads, and in all four, the perception levels are different. In soul monads, in spirit monads, or in bare monads. So bare monads perception is very minimal, and soul and spirit it's and God definitely is all kinds of perception he is possible for him. So uh, basically, he has a very hierarchical order of monads and accordingly hierarchical order of perception also. Leibniz compared the unfolding of knowledge to a sculptor carving a statue from a marble. The statue already exists within the marble, but this sculptor uh, merely he removes the excess material concealing it. So basically, uh, he has given the example how knowledge is derived from the mind or innate ideas. So similarly, perception and knowledge are already present in the intellect. So what he says, perception and knowledge are already present in the intellect, and sensory experience merely provides an occasion for their expression. So this is his basically theory of perception. Ideas remain latent until stimulated by sensory experience. However, sense experience does not actively contribute to knowledge. It merely serves as a trigger. Leibniz emphasized this by stating that monads are windowless, meaning that they do not interact with external influence but develop internally. He has further distinguished between different stages of perception uh, because different kinds of monads are there. So, different stages of perceptions are there. Soul monad or spirit monad having conscious perception, bare monads having very confused perception. Locke rejected the notion of unconscious experience. Leibniz countered this by using the analogy of ocean waves. This idea later found support in Freud's theory of unconsciousness. For Leibniz, knowledge progresses from lower to higher stages, from confused perception to clear and distinct understanding. His view parallels Kant's assertion. Kant will be soon will be. I mean, after 2 weeks we will be again coming to Kant also. Kant, very important philosopher from the exam point of view, and otherwise also from in Western philosophy. Kant has been one of the very key and modern important modern philosophers. So Kant's assertion that knowledge begins with senses, progresses through understanding, and culminates in reason. So this also very preliminary view we can see in Leibniz theory of perception. So because Kant has developed this whole thing in this idea, but a very preliminary view is visible in the Leibniz also. Now, what is the critical evaluation of this? His epistemology is closely tied to his monadology. Monadology is basically his metaphysics. So his epistemology, and that happens for all the philosophers, their epistemology is closely tied with metaphysics. So it's basically whatever are the problems in monadology definitely reflect in the his epistemology also. So it's not that his theory is very acceptable and has been accepted easily by all the philosophers. It has serious conceptual difficulties because a number of criticism has come. First is leading to an infinite regress and making knowledge appear entirely relative. So Bertrand Russell has told that Leibniz theory lacks clear resolution to the problem of infinite representation. Leibniz monads are windowless. Uh, they do not interact with each other. But uh, I mean, because that it makes his philosophy uh, leads to solipsism, since monads cannot directly acknowledge or verify the existence of other monads. So it means ki only self exists or only one's own mind exists. That kind of critical evaluation Kant has done for this philosophy. Leibniz rigid rationalism is another point of contention by asserting that all ideas are innate and rejecting empirical input as an active component of knowledge. He minimizes the roles of sensory experience. Such and again, Hume sought to integrate the rationalist thought. Critics argue that without sensory experience playing an active role, it is difficult to explain how knowledge appears to be shaped. So basically, there has to be a balanced view. Experience always is required, and mind is also required, which later philosophers have explained subsequently. So that is also a criticism, because Leibniz philosophy is extreme rationalism. Definitely, extreme rationalism is totally rejecting the sensory experience, is not a very, very sound epistemology, logically and uh, scientifically also. Another issue is hierarchical structure of monads. Uh, this is more speculative than real. It appears, I mean, there's no empirical evidence. It is a very speculative theory. Then perception progresses through different levels of monads. This he has given. This again hierarchy of monads he has made. All this is more speculation than reality or than empirically observed reality. Then uh, his view that knowledge is a mere unfolding of what is already present in the mind fails to account for development in new scientific theories and discoveries. So his theory of perception is also not very supportive or gets support from new scientific theories and discoveries also. If knowledge is purely innate, it becomes difficult to explain how entirely new concepts such as quantum mechanics or relativity emerge over time rather than simply being recalled. So this is what how new inventions or new discoveries are coming up rather than being recalled. If every knowledge should be available in the mind itself. Karl Popper he has criticized that emphasizing the role of falsification and empirical testing in the advancement of knowledge, which Leibniz model does not adequately address. This is Karl Popper's criticism. But I mean, we should admit that despite all this criticism, also his theory of perception is quite significant, and by extending innateness to all ideas and maintaining that knowledge internal unfolding rather than external acquisition, Leibniz presents a distinctive, influential perspective on perception and epistemology. So basically, with this, we complete the Leibniz, and now I will come up with the question of this week. So, what question we are going to give for the exercise? So, this is our question of week 5. Whose account of mind and body problem among rationalists is consistent with human freedom and free will? So this is one question, but this covers all the three philosophers. So a whole rationalism chapter is covered under this, right from Descartes, Spinoza, and Leibniz also. For Descartes, we have to explain dualism. For Spinoza, we have to explain parallelism. And for Leibniz, we have to explain pre-established harmony. So we should write the answer in about 400 words, whose account of mind and body problem among rationalists is consistent with human freedom and free will. Uh, Definitely, if any interested candidate is there, he can send the answer in PDF form to mail ID given. We will evaluate and we will communicate back to him uh, what are the deficiencies in the answer so that he can further improve. Model answer to this question will be discussed in next week's Zoom class. That is our tradition, our actually system which we follow. So with this, my uh, this thing is complete. Now, if anybody wants to say anything, otherwise, I will close and we'll meet next week. So this is my so if anybody wants to say otherwise, I just want to repeat one more thing. I've already told earlier. I am going to very soon make smaller videos of important philosophical terms, which will be very useful for the UPSC philosophy candidates. Those terms I have already identified about more than 100 such terms, which will be very useful for the philosophy students to understand the lectures, notes, and also various topics in various important books which they are reading. And if those terms are being used by them in the writing answers, their answers will become better and they may fetch better marks. So that soon, from perhaps from next week, I would like to post those videos on YouTube also so that you can go through if you are interested and try to understand those terms very clearly so that you can understand the lectures, notes, etc. in better manner. So with this, if anybody wants to say anything, otherwise I will close. Okay, thank you everybody. So we'll meet next week, same time. Thank you.